SEC says XRP decision was wrongly decided. We all understand the fact that SEC is not comfortable with the fact that XRP is not a security. And especially when the judge has ruled that it is not a security in itself, yeah, basically these guys are burning their bottoms. So what's it all about actually? How's things evolving? Because if you look at how things are really moving forward, do you now understand the fact that why they want to slow this down? When you see macro things happening, when you see institutions moving towards this asset, now you understand the fact that, okay, the Wall Street guys really don't want that to happen. They don't want that generational wealth transfer to happen now, and they really don't want a lot of us becoming ultra wealthy because we spend our time for research and accumulation of this particular asset. But then when you actually go through all this, you really want to actually see what the legal experts are saying about this thing, what the legal experts are looking forward to when they actually go through this. And when I just look at this and say, like, the SEC lawyers sound just like prima donna crybabies, I'm like, okay, I understand. So one thing we all have to understand here is that most likely we're going to win this. Why? The judge didn't actually give a decision in 3 weeks. They actually spent enough time studying what went through in each layer of things, listening to the arguments of both sides, went through that for an extended period of time, and then gave the summary judgment. So I think that's going to stay, and the market is where things are interesting right now with what's happening here, without the consideration of how things are evolving on the macro, because this kind of take you through the next level of adoption. There is no doubt in that. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. This is where you get the best TA in crypto. While you look at XRP and the price action, the pattern, the price structure, we do see some similarities between what it has done in the past and what it is doing right now. Now, one of the fact in this one is, yeah, this is that start of the run in 2021 after the SEC case has been dropped on and the price dropped, right? That's a big area to watch. Now, why would I focus on that part? Because I'm looking at this like, okay, back then something just changed. SEC came in and put the argument that this is a security. So the market had a huge level of panic. Now with the court ruling, again, something just changed. The notion of XRP can be a security, that kind of drama is now moved. Yeah, SEC is trying to appeal, but you know the fact that the judge is not about to say, okay, I just wasted by 6 months and gave a ruling just like that. I don't think that's going to happen, because most likely before they make a ruling, they have a specified list of things which they would check, and they would have a specified points which they have made why this ruling makes sense. So now if you're going against it, first you need to make sure that they understand that you are about to say all these points which you made as a foundation for this ruling is wrong. That's where I think, SEC will have a hard time. And now if we assume that here the price dropped, then the bull market season was happening and we took part in that. Here, it's the entirely different thing. We went up, popped up. Now, is the market all going down? If that's true, if the entire market is dropping, then you can say, okay, now that kind of thing is possible. We may also follow the market. But here, that is not we are watching. Yeah, when you zoom out, take a macro look, you do see a small probability that we may go to 27,500 before a bounce. That's still possible. We cannot neglect that fact. But when you zoom in, the price action is not giving up this range of support. That's interesting to understand. We tried testing 29,500 a couple of times. And Bitcoin is actually showing you a lot of resilience at that point. You do see that coming back to retest back in June, and then you watch that happening again earlier in the July. Now, at the ending part, you're watching that it has stayed there for a few days, but each time you drop, you get a lot of buyers in, and then one day you even tried pushing all the way above 30,000. You went close to 3,500. But yes, that day, sellers actually won the war. They pushed that down. Now what's happening? The price action is trying to recover and it's trying to bounce off. So if you actually take a normal perspective, you should say, okay, we went up, we came back down, we went up, we came back down. This kind of math is still happening. There is no doubt that we should neglect this, right? No, that's not how it works. Until and unless you see a break through this range, whether it's to the downside or to the upside, we assume that the trend is going to continue. Now, yeah, we do use the indicators. We do use all these available tools to make our decision a little bit more clearer, right? So in that sense, when you actually plot in the indicators, you do see some room to the downside. So unless we slow down here and then give a little bit of run up, which will get rejected back to the trend line, yeah, we can argue the perspective, like we may consolidate here and then move up. So it can be a time-based correction or a price-based correction, but the fact that it is trending higher is not changing. So the crypto market as a whole is trending higher, and you do get that notion. Now, you zoom in on the short-term charts and you see the fact that, okay, we had a short-term trend line. We broke that to the downside. Now, this is the most conservative side of things. If you want to be optimistic, you can actually use the standard deviations and put the argument that, okay, we are somewhat still at that range. We're trying to hold on to that range. Just don't give up on that. Now, that's a different perspective. But right now, when you look at things, you do have to understand we didn't actually break and hold above this particular range, which creates a little bit of room for correction. And we are inside this trading zone. Now, when Bitcoin itself is inside this trading zone and now XRP has joined that party, we can actually say, okay, maybe we are going to come down to 0.7. That is healthy. But then you actually go back in the history and look at these things and understand that, yeah, we went up, we came back down, we consolidated in this range, but we never dropped below this. Now, the primary difference here is that that level back then happened to be a support resistance zone. However, this time around, things look a little bit different, right? You go back and you understand that this range is the resistance and support zone, which if we can actually plot, you can actually plot that all the way back for a year or two. But what matters here is that, okay, that's happening. Now, for us, we do have to wait a little bit and see if the moving average is able to push higher and the price reaches that moving average and bounce off. So I would say we don't really need to come back down to 0.5. We may actually end up close to 0.65. If the moving average is holding up and the price action is still coming back lower, that can still be an area where you see some panic, right? And when there is panic, retail actually tries to move out, step back, institutions take use of that. So what am I really pointing towards? Say, if this happens, we come here and we drop lower, and a lot of people would be scared, and at that moment we will step out. What if we go back up and then start moving higher? I mean, that's also possible. We can't neglect that as a possibility, right? Because at that time, the moving average would be somewhat close to the price action, and that usually pushes the price up the next leg. Now, yes, that's a speculative side of things where you really don't know whether that's going to happen, and it is trying to visualize what's happening in the marketplace with what you have seen in the price action for years. But then when you actually look at all this, you do understand the fact that, yeah, the fundamentals here is exploding, especially when you actually watch things like this. There is no denying the fact that this is about to go huge. The partnership between NAB and Ripple is expected to go live in early 2024 after the completion of regulatory approvals, technical integration. Now, if you actually think about this in one way, you can ask, okay, if this is just about a software upgrade for that bank, will they have to go through a lot of these stuff for that long? I really don't think so. Whereas I do believe the on-demand liquidity part is included, is clear. I do believe the partnership will also explore other uses for XRP and Ripple's technologies such as lending, trade finance, and treasury management. When they say that, yeah, they are looking at the on-demand liquidity seriously and just saying, okay, we are exploring that. But I think they are going to use that in a way that the XRP ledger can even explode in use case. At that time, remember, right now, you have an area where Stellar or XLM has 5x more transaction per second than XRP ledger. So one way you can say, okay, right now we are slow, but these kind of big things are just entering the pipeline. And a lot of others which are already in the pipeline has been blocked there with the SEC issue. But right now we're getting the clarity that no, SEC has been stupid. Common sense was never a common practice for those individuals, and we are watching the payment assets taking off. Let it be the Hydra, let it be the XRP, the XLM, all these are the assets. We understand that crypto is here. We understand the fact that crypto is about to explode. Whether it's in one country or the other, if one nation is about to take this on, and you see a lot of institutional movements to that country, the money flow, I don't think a lot of people would actually be sloppy about that. Whether it's the US, whether it's China, all of them would like to take that capital in. Now, I would like to highlight this part to you. Crypto area actually highlighted this fact that, okay, watch cryptoalert.com and see, whenever they are dropping something like this, it usually does not give a lot of validity. Because if you actually see things like this, she's actually highlighting, okay, don't click on this. One of the primary stuff is okay, we read that and we try to go search the other news outlets. And if you don't really see something like that, don't believe in that. We usually try to do a couple of research, see if that's true, if that's valid, other people have different opinion about that, and how things are working on both sides of the aisle. And that's why you actually see things like this. Why? Because when you actually look at this and say okay, banks in different countries are going on, the regulatory approvals is happening for crypto. And when we say that, keep this in mind, crypto is a new technology which is going through a hell lot of regulatory scrutiny at a time when you have this thing. Meaning, on the other side, the banking institutions really have zero reserve requirement, and on the side here on the crypto, you do have a lot of regulations to go through. That is one of the primary reasons why when you involve this technology, you have such hard time going through the regulatory approvals. So don't get depressed when you see, okay, it may take 2024. Now, let me ask you one thing. If you think that these organizations are about to use that technology in 2024, early 2024, they'll wait to buy all those assets till that time. The investors would slow their movement into that asset till that time. I really don't think so. Because this kind of move in the price action, staying at that top till this point, is huge for me. Because I strongly believe that these kind of movements will usually push the price action another leg to the upside. Now, back then, we had a heavier resistance where we got rejected. Agreed. But right now, you literally have to zoom out and ask the question okay, if you do start the next leg up from this level of resistance, what is the next level? It's 1.3, 1.4 range. So imagine this. You're now testing this range, you consolidate here, you break higher. So when you actually see the price breaking to the upside and you slow down at 1.3, 1.4, what do you really understand from that? Do you think this is about to drop back to the downside? Because we still have a narrative in the marketplace where in the crypto Twitter, people are actually putting that argument saying XRP is about to go back down. I'm like, okay, let me clarify that, right? Let me listen to your viewpoints and understand what you really want to inform and why you think that. And when I'm going through that, I'm like, okay, that's not something which has taken in the correct context, because say the movements which they are highlighting is like, okay, you move up, you come back down. But my question is that really a comeback down? That's a trend higher. That's coming back to the support before the bounce. So for me, I would argue that perspective, don't get confused. People would always give their opinion, like me, like others, and it's you who take the final decision. And before you take such important decisions in your portfolio with your money, make sure you understand what they're saying. And if you look at this right now and say, okay, that was a resistance that's just turned into a support, yeah, that's great. That's the real point here. Because right now, as long as you stay above 0.5, 0.6 here, that's a massive support zone. That means a lot of people would be attracted to buy this asset if it comes back to that range. Now, if you actually go in and actually take in the volume profiles, especially the visible range volume profile. So when we're actually using the volume profile, we would actually like to see where we stand. And that's when you need to understand, like, okay, we've actually went through this range where there was a little volume about this move. What does that actually show you? Say, historically speaking, whenever you do that kind of a move, you can say, okay, either there is going to be a huge FOMO coming in, or we would face some selling pressure. Because literally, you need massive push to the upside through this level to attract more buyers to shift from this point onwards to this point. Because those people who believe that this particular asset is about to drop back down, they have their orders set somewhere here. So we are looking at the volume in the market, and it actually shows you like, okay, very few people believe that we are about to move higher, and especially about this particular range right now. You don't literally see a lot of volume in that range, right? You don't actually see a lot of volume in that range. So now I'm zooming in. I really want to actually take things as close as possible to see, okay, if that's true and this is what I'm watching, how is it looking like? Because at this time, I would actually say, okay, we have some volume up till this point of 0.74, after which you would see a big chunk of volume close to 0.5, 0.4715 to be precise. Now that means a lot of volume is trying to pull the price action to the downside. So the gravitational pull is still there. Now, it can only go parabolic if you are looking for a break of 0.93. And when that happens, now what will happen usually in the market is all these volume which is placed here at the bottom will now have to shift. Imagine you're putting a buy order for 0.5 and your previous resistance is being taken out and you get a daily confirmation that you're going up. Will you want to miss this opportunity? Most likely not. You'll close that and go chase the price. That's where we see volatility and the FOMO coming in. So guys, if you did receive value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.